All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Before we get started, just a couple of the normal reminders. We will have time for questions at the end of the presentation. You can type those in by clicking the Q&A or the chat section in the lower portion of your control panel. Feel free to chat between yourselves as well throughout the webinar. We will be posting a recording on our blog. The link for that will be shown at the end. And if you'd like a PDF copy of the presentation, there will be a link to download that on that same post as the recording. If your question does not get answered today, or if you think of any others, please email our support inbox, which will be shown at the end as well. So what is on the agenda for today? We are going to focus on the power of positive thinking. We will chat about why being positive can be great for your overall well-being, what negativity can do to have the opposite effects, and ways to incorporate positive thinking into your life. Hopefully you'll come away with a few different techniques to try throughout the new year. So first, why should we focus on the positive? What are the benefits of trying to be that glass half full person more often? Lots of wonderful benefits, actually. Some of the research-based benefits include higher quality of life and energy levels, faster recovery from injury and illness, including fewer colds. That's what we want right now, right? Lower rates of depression, better stress management and coping skills, and just a longer lifespan in general. A study from Johns Hopkins found that people with a family history of heart disease that had a positive outlook on life were 33% less likely to have a heart attack or cardiovascular event within 5 to 25 years than those with a more negative outlook. And those are specifically with people that have hereditary factors involved. Being positive can also help with your job performance. Psychologist Dr. Martin Seligman from the University of Pennsylvania did a study with salespeople where he measured their levels of optimism and pessimism and found that optimistic salespeople sold 37% more than pessimistic workers. And even more importantly, in my opinion, he also has done research that shows that people can change their pessimistic tendencies to positive ones through simple acts and simple habit changes. I think people struggle with believing that we are who we are, right? When it comes to kind of being a pessimist versus an optimist, but we can absolutely change and work towards that more optimistic way of life. And there are simple steps to start, which we'll get to here in just a minute. But before we do that, I do kind of want to look at the other side really quickly just to get the full picture. What does negative thinking do to our mental and physical health? When we have more anger and pessimism in our lives, it leads to a stress reaction in our bodies. We can develop depression and anxiety. We release hormones like cortisol, which affects things like our metabolism, which can cause us to gain weight. It affects our immune system, so we may get sick more, the opposite of what we just talked about with the positivity, right? And we have more symptoms like headaches, body aches, nausea, fatigue, difficulty sleeping, things like that. When you're stressed, it doesn't help things like relationships either, right? So we get into this vicious cycle of feeling bad mentally, which leads to feeling bad physically, which makes us even more grumpy, if you will, right? Long-term effects of having more of those negative thoughts dominating our brains includes a higher risk of heart disease, heart attack, stroke, even dementia. A study at the University College London found a link between repetitive negative thinking and cognitive decline. Depression and anxiety are known risk factors for dementia, and having negative thought patterns can lead to that depression and anxiety, right? So it all kind of makes sense. The study found that those that exhibited high levels of repetitive negative thinking were more likely to have two specific protein deposits in their brains that cause Alzheimer's. So again, research-based stuff here that kind of showing us about the negative kinds of thinking. So enough with the bad stuff, right? But the reason I included this part is because I do think it's important to acknowledge the dangers that come from not trying at least to focus more on that positive. And I'll touch on this again, but I really want you to remember that being positive doesn't mean that you can't have negative thoughts, or emotions, right? That's impossible. We are human, but more on that in a bit. But I just want to throw that out there. We're not talking about ignoring the negatives and not working through them. We're just talking about where we can find more positive. All right. So we know it's important to try and start to put that positivity into practice, if you will, but how do we do it? A few different things that I'm going to go over today. So first one that you can do is to start to identify some of those negative thoughts, some of what are called cognitive distortions. So the general definition of this is an irrational or biased way of thinking that can negatively affect your emotions and behavior. They're often patterns of thinking and are overly pessimistic or self-critical that can lead to psychological damage. The most important thing I want you to note about cognitive distortion is that these thoughts are not based in fact, right? So most of them are not accurate. They're just things that they're distortions, right? That's why they're called distortions. Some research suggests that we may develop these to cope with negative life events. And then we continue to use these types of thoughts because our brain thinks it's actually helping us survive better. Our brains and minds are generally wired to look for negatives and danger because it helps us survive, right? Way back from, long time ago, it's a thing that our brains are hardwired to do. And what it can do, it can accidentally make connections to things that may not actually be related, causing these false thoughts. This is why we call them distortions, right? And why identifying them is a great first step in turning our thought process around. So I'll get to that in a minute, but let's talk about what kind of cognitive distortions are out there, and then we'll go through them. So there's actually a lot. I'm only going to focus on a few here, but do some research, and then you can see if there are any others that you find that resonate with you. First one is polarized thinking. You see things only as good or bad. Some people will call it an all or nothing or black and white thinking. For you, there's no middle ground. You feel that you have to be perfect or you're a total failure. We see this a lot with working people on their health. If you eat one bad thing, then everything's out the window, you give up, you're a failure, right? This can be a really damaging way of thinking, as you can imagine, but it's pretty common. So that might be something that resonates with you. Overgeneralization, this is when one bad thing happens and you conclude that it's the same with everything. So you messed up on a Microsoft Excel equation at work and you conclude that you're terrible at Excel. You can't do anything. This is my personal example. I wanted to throw that out there because Excel hates me. So that's a negative thought right there. That's a distortion. But seriously, failing one time and thinking you're a failure at everything related to that area is a common distortion and something to look out for. Catastrophizing, you automatically anticipate the worst. When one thing goes wrong, let's say you got a negative email, for example, and you go on to just assume the rest of the day is going to be terrible. And if you do this, minimizing typically goes along with it. You only focus on the bad and you discount or minimize all the positives that happen the rest of the day. This is similar to another distortion, mental filtering, where you don't just minimize the good things, you ignore them altogether. Personalization, this is when something bad occurs and you automatically blame yourself. For example, friend cancels their plans with you, right? Or you're not invited to something for some reason. You automatically think it's because you did something wrong or they don't like you. This is a big one too, I feel like, for a lot of people, right? This leads to the next one, which is mind reading. We assume we know what others are thinking and are jumping to conclusions before knowing the facts. Oh, you know that you didn't get invited to that because they don't like you, right? You're putting your own assumptions in place of their actual thoughts without waiting to find out what the truth might actually be. And then the next one is should statements. This is a common one as well. We teach ourselves, or we tell ourselves, excuse me, that we should be doing this, we should be doing that. And then we criticize ourselves for not doing those things. I've heard someone phrase it as we're shoulding all over ourselves, right? And I like that because we do. If you pay attention to your thoughts, you say a lot to yourself, well, I should be doing this, should be doing that. And that takes a negative connotation in our brain and it can create a negative environment for ourselves. So again, big point of talking about these cognitive distortions is learning that our brain sabotages our thoughts sometimes. And we need to learn how and recognize our cognitive distortions, because if we can recognize those, we can start to stop those thoughts or curb them, and ideally start to replace them with positive ones. If anyone has one of those cognitive distortions that they want to share in the chat, please go ahead. I think we'll find a lot of commonalities as we go through. So, but on that next note, the next thing I want to talk about is how some action items to find those positives throughout your day. Okay, so just simply identifying a positive is one in itself. This is easy when you're in a good mood, right? It's easy to find stuff when you feel good. It's easy to find those positives. Now, it can take a little practice when you're stressed or just not feeling it, right? But it's worth it. So taking a second when you're feeling kind of, not necessarily when you're feeling negative, but it helps too when you can feel that negativity kind of try to swallow you up. Find a positive. It can help bring you back to a more positive mindset. And it doesn't have to be anything huge, just something good in your day, something you're grateful for, something you're looking forward to. Another term used in this situation is positive self-talk. So instead of focusing on just a positive thought, you focus on a positive message to yourself, right? How you talk to yourself. Instead of saying, man, I messed that up. You can say, all right, well, I learned something, right? What did I learn? I'll try it a different way. It's really a change in your mindset, which isn't easy to do again, but practice makes perfect. It's how we view the situation that we're in. If we can put a positive spin on things when we're able to, it's not going to happen all the time. But if we can do it when we're able to, it's going to help us have a more positive outlook. So for example, think of a time when you talk to your significant other, your kids, a coworker, a best friend, when they had a bad day. What did you say to them to encourage them? You were probably pretty positive with your message, right? Then take that type of language and use it on yourself too. We tend to be harder on ourselves than anyone else, so use some of those supportive words on yourself as well. So think about that. That can help change that mindset too. The next step is to build on those positive thoughts that you're collecting throughout the day. Create an attitude of gratitude. Again, I'll throw some more research at you. Research from UC Davis found that those who work daily on their gratitude reduce the stress hormone cortisol by 23% and experience what you would assume, right? Improve mood, improve energy, less anxiety. So an attitude of gratitude, what I mean by that is simply taking dedicated time to focus on that positive. Again, especially if you're experiencing negative thoughts. I like to recommend to people I talk with to make a part of their day that can be stressful an opportunity to practice gratitude and find a positive, like traffic, for example, right? Like waiting in line. Instead of getting annoyed about something you can't control and focusing on the negative, take that time to think about something you're grateful for. Or you can use other times that are consistent in your day. Habit stacking, we call it. Times like brushing your teeth, taking your shower, times like that to think about the positives. Another way to incorporate it during a meditation or deep breathing session. A fantastic time to work on practicing gratitude is during exercise. You've already got those feel-good hormones that you're releasing every time you exercise, right? Great time to utilize those positive thoughts to work on, to think about all the other stuff that you're grateful for as well. You can also add in a gratitude journaling session a few times per week and actually physically note the things you're grateful for. This can be, electronic journal. There's apps out there, actual paper and pen, which I know a lot of people like as well. Mindfulness, just stopping and thinking, that includes being grateful, it changes the way our brain works. I mentioned the benefits of being positive, and the benefits of keeping a gratitude journal or simply practicing daily gratitude in whatever way works best for you are very similar. It can give you perspective on life. It can help you sleep better if you think about those positives before bed. It can lower your body's physical stress response. It makes you more self-aware as you connect with those thoughts, even the negatives, because again, we're looking at making sure we're acknowledging those negative thoughts, but then we're focusing to turn them into positives. And with the gratitude journal too, you can write anything without judgment, right? It's for you and you alone. You get those thoughts out, and then you can work on ending with the positive notes for those. Another great thing about a physical gratitude journal is that you can go back and you can read those positive thoughts, which can be especially helpful when you're feeling a little not so great, right? When we start to focus on the positive regularly, our brain will start to automatically seek out and notice more positive things. And again, I've said this already, it takes practice, it absolutely does, but you can change those mental connections to enable your brain to find the best parts in each day. One last note before I move on to more strategies. I already mentioned that being positive doesn't mean that we can't have negative thoughts. Having a positive outlook and attitude of gratitude isn't about ignoring negative thoughts or burying them inside of us, right? We need to work through tough times. And for those that may be struggling with depression or other issues, make sure you reach out for help as needed, right? Talk to your doctor, talk to health professionals if you feel like that's something that could benefit you. It's just like physical health. We need to reach out for outside help sometimes, and it's okay. But what gratitude and looking for that positive can do in your day-to-day is give you hope, right? Even if it's the tiniest thing to be grateful for, comfy chair, a stick of gum, you can still find something positive in every day. It's not going to be easy every day, but there should be something positive in every day. So start with one thing and go from there. And having the support of not only others, like I talked about, your friends, your family, professionals, whoever it may be, but if you have the support of yourself, when you change that negative talk to positive self-talk and you focus on those positives, it just, again, it helps keep you in that positive mindset while you work through maybe some not so positive times. And it can just give you that little spark of hope to help work through those times. If anyone wants to share what they're grateful for today, specifically, throw it in the chat. I'm going to keep yapping at you, but go ahead and share those positive things that you've got going on today. Okay, next strategy to stay positive is smiling and laughing. So there's a reason that funny and cute videos and memes on social media are so popular, right? They make us smile and they make us laugh, right? And we feel good when we do those things. There's so many physical and mental benefits to laughing specifically. I love all the grateful things, and I'm noticing all the grateful stuff you guys are thankful for. That's fantastic. But anyways, laughing, smiling, it relaxes our body by relieving physical stress and tension. It boosts our immune system. It triggers the release of endorphins, which is our body's natural feel-good chemicals. It helps our heart. It improves the function of blood vessels and increases blood flow. It helps stop those stressful emotions like sadness and anger and lifts our mood. It can also help us shift perspective by learning to look on the lighter side of a situation, right? So the action item that goes along with this that you can do daily is have some items that make you smile and laugh in your stress toolbox. If you've been on other webinars, you just know that stress toolbox is just a term for strategies that make you feel better when you're stressed. And then use them when you're not stressed too. Just use them every day. Things like a funny show you like to watch, a go-to movie, looking at pictures of your family members, your pets, your friends, any other reminders for you that bring back positive memories, music, stuff like that, anything that brings back feelings that can help bring on that calming and positive effect, right? A study from Georgia State found that adding simulated laughter in an exercise program helped improve older adults' mental health and their aerobic endurance. Win-win, right? So to just including it in different things that you're doing, including things that make you smile, that make you laugh, that make you happy is so important. Because next thing I'm going to touch on, there's a lot of negativity in the world in general, right? And we just have access to it more so than we ever have before. So I mentioned the cute and funny videos that make us laugh online and social media, but I do want to touch on the other side of that. Negative social media and news can wreak havoc on our goal to stay positive in our mental health, right? This is a massive topic. I'm not going to dive into it, but bottom line, have a goal to limit your time online if you can. Negativity sells, right? That's what people are going to show you. That's what you're going to see. That's what's going to be popular because our brains want to see that, unfortunately, right? So while we need to be knowledgeable, informed in life, right? Be mindful of how much you're taking in each day because our brains are not wired to handle that much information at once, especially when it's negative. So really, really, really take that to heart. Try to focus on, if you're going to be on social media, focus on the funny pictures of zebras laughing, focus on that stuff as much as you can, right? So absolutely. All right. Okay, a few other things before I wrap it up here, a few other areas to change, identifying areas to change specifically. So this means really just doing some thinking about some of the things that typically bring about negative thoughts in your day-to-day and seeing what you can do to change those things. Are there any daily stressors that you could alter or avoid? Any relationship changes, things like that? Uh, think about any areas that you have control over. Taking small steps to alter things that cause negativity. We just talked about one, like social media, right? Taking steps to alter things that cause that negativity to creep in can help move you to a better ratio of positive to negative. You're not going to be able to control all of it, right? But see what you can do to affect the things in your world that you can control, that you see, hear, are exposed to. If you can cut some of that negative down and get more positive in, it's going to be a good thing, right? Next is practicing healthy habits. When we take care of ourselves physically, it helps our mind function better and vice versa, right? So big four areas: eating well, getting enough activity, exercise, enough sleep, managing stress are very helpful factors in our ability to live a more positive life. So again, not going to dive into these. We have lots and lots of webinars on each of these topics on our blog, so check those out. But again, don't forget the physical part because physical and mental are intertwined. So make sure you're treating yourself well on both sides as much as you can. Getting outdoors. There are numerous studies that show just being outside does wonders to our mood and ability to be positive. It increases levels of serotonin, which is a key hormone that helps stabilize our mood, our feelings of well-being, our happiness. Sunshine specifically helps our body make vitamin D, which can protect against depression, among other things. Now, I know some of you we're in the winter for a lot of us, right? Even a small dose of being outdoors, even 10 minutes can improve that mood, right? So just get out, enjoy it when you can, and get out there as much as you possibly can, depending on your situation. Next one is surrounding yourself with positive people. Again, some you control, some you can control, some you can't, but finding those in your life and finding those that are positive, supportive people in your life can be a huge factor, as many of you know, right? And then negative people can increase those stress levels and again, bring that negativity in. Now, again, can't avoid everybody, but if you can't avoid those negative people that you know kind of are Debbie Downers, if you will, just do your best to limit contact with them as much as you can, or After you're with them, practice some of that positive self-talk, practice some stress management, find one of those happy things in your stress toolbox to do afterwards, right? And then also increase contact with those that bring you joy as much as you can. On that same note, being nice to others helps us be more positive ourselves. Now, this means both in person and via email, social media, all that stuff as well, right? When we help others, when we're kind to others, it activates the part of our brain that feels pleasure. So we get as much out of it as the other people do that we're being nice to and that we're helping. So saying kind words, volunteering, simply practicing random acts of kindness for those that you know or those that you don't know can be a great boost for that mental well-being. So don't forget about stuff like that as well. And then lastly, check yourself. I don't mean this in a negative way, like check yourself, right? But check on how your thoughts are periodically during the day. Just stop and evaluate what you're thinking about and if it's positive or negative. This is a great way to start. If you find that your thoughts are mostly negative in that moment, pause if you can. Use one of the techniques we talked about, turn it around with positive, find the positive, do some deep breathing just to practice gratitude for a minute to hopefully put some positive spin on that moment if possible. And those are the little things that build into that big thing that changes that overall mindset, right? Be aware of what you're thinking. Okay, wrapping it up here. Really treat yourself like you would a friend or family member, right? We're much more positive for other people, like I already stated. Be compassionate, be positive, be supportive to other people, but also to yourself. Pick one small step today that you can take. It can be something I mentioned. It can be something you've been thinking about doing and just haven't done that you know will bring more positivity into your life. But find one small step to improve your day today that you can build on every single day from here on out. And then practice. You can practice breathing while doing gratitude. You can practice that positive self-talk by giving yourself a nice pep talk. You can practice those healthy physical habits that will help your mental habit. Repetition is the key to create long-term sustainable changes and sustainable habits. So stick with it as much as you can. If you fall off, get right back on it, right? And then lastly, don't take yourself too seriously, right? We're all human. We all make mistakes. We all have something that we're going through, some bigger than others, but we all have something that we know is going on that isn't necessarily positive. So do what you can. Look to find joy in every day, and every day will be better in return for you. All right, I will hold on for some questions if there is any for today, but just want to go over those next webinar topics. Next month, we are going to talk about exercise hot topics. So just some different trends and things like that to maybe give you some ideas to spark some new exercise routines or to change yours up if you're already doing something. And then in March, we're going to talk about grocery shopping 101. So just simple tips and tricks to hopefully choose a little bit healthier things when you're in the grocery store, because it can be really overwhelming. If you do have lifestyle rewards, if you do get points for watching the webinar, you may need to answer questions. Not everyone will have to, but if you do, these are the questions that you will answer. These will also be on the slides. So if you're not able to screenshot it right now, or if it's not up on the questions when you go to submit, you can download the slides on our blog. That will hopefully be updated with this webinar and these slides here in the next day or two. So you've got that. And then, of course, here's our contact information. We are on social media. We try to stick with positive stuff. So hopefully you can follow us and find some positives while you're scrolling each day. And then we have our blog website here. So you can watch this webinar, watch any of the recordings that we have for the past, I don't know how many years. It's been a long time. And you can register for upcoming webinars as well on that blog. And then, of course, you can contact a health coach. You can give us a call and schedule a time. You can email us if there's anything you want to chat about health related. Our coaches are fantastic and they love to help with everyone. So, all right. Lots of positives, lots of gratitude going on. I absolutely love it. And yeah, big or small, it's all good, right? It's all good. Well, I'm grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for a new year and a fresh start for a lot of you, hopefully. Otherwise, if you're continuing great habits, that's wonderful too. Otherwise, um, I'll hang out here for just another minute, but oh, it's exactly 12:30 Central. If you're down in Texas or the South and you're preparing for winter weather that you don't normally get, stay safe. Don't travel. Hopefully you don't have to travel, but I know it's going to be an interesting one down there. We've got some coaches down there, so be safe, everybody.